And Melissa, did you have anything that you wanted to say to the group? You want me to lead on kind of current initiatives for the group?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead and lead, that would be nice.
Okay. So yeah, for anybody who is newer to the group, what we've kind of noticed recently is that we didn't do the best job of explaining kind of our group goals and what we do in the city. So just going to give a brief overview. So 350 Chicago, Melissa is our chapter founder. She started it back in 2013, right? And so we are basically trying to get the city of Chicago to divest its operational budget and urge them to also get the pension funds to divest from fossil fuels. And for a lot of reasons, like fiscally, it's smart, as everybody knows, fossil fuels have taken a really bad hit over the last decade. They've been the worst performing sector on the S&P 500. And also just morally, ethically, we don't think that it's right to profit off something that really negatively impacts people disproportionately that are poor, Black and Latinx communities. So it's not moral to make a profit that way, and we don't even think that they are making a profit by investing in fossil fuels. So trying to get the city of Chicago to get out of those investments and support a just 100% renewable energy future for the city. So that's kind of our main goals. We've also got some other things going on. We have several subcommittees that if you're interested in getting involved in, like the education committee, which is planning events like this, ways for people to plug in, see what's going on around the city in this space. Contact other groups like Jack Sunrise Movement. I think we had you as guest speakers last year. Other groups like Extinction Rebellion, lots and lots of others. We also have an outreach committee trying to, grow the size of the group, get people more engaged. Got a communications committee that I'm on, which is kind of like making sure that the social media presence and the emails going out to our listservs are, all in a cohesive voice and that we're communicating with our audience and letting them know great things that are happening. The research committee, which is, I believe, Hannah, and if Alex is on, they do a lot of great work on doing deep dives into specific topics. Like Hannah's working on something right now for the Right to Repair Act, which I would butcher explaining it. Hannah, do you want to kind of talk to that?
Sure. And just to clarify, Alex is actually the head of the research committee. I'm just kind of a member. Yeah, is my audio okay?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, the Digital Fair Repair Act is a bill that is going to the Illinois General Assembly. And it was filed, I think, a year or two ago, but it kind of languished in committee, and then the pandemic happened and kind of derailed everything. But essentially, it is a law that would require electronics manufacturers to supply like schematics and repair instructions and replacement parts at reasonable rates to independent repair people or to consumers. Instead of making you, for example, take your iPhone to a licensed Apple repair person. And so, yeah, the idea is kind of to, to make it easier for people to kind of extend the lives of their devices, because, manufacturing does lead to a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, and also electronic waste is a big problem. And so this would kind of be a step in moving from the norm of, just kind of replacing your phone every year to kind of, less consumption.
All right. Thanks, Hannah. So yeah, lots of ways to get plugged into the group, and that's just kind of a brief overview of who we are. But on to the main events, I guess we'll say, unless we have any other questions. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I just also wanted to plug our social event that's happening on February 11th. So we're encouraging everyone to go out into the neighborhood, probably not today or tomorrow because it's very cold, but go out into your neighborhood and take a photo of what climate change is looking like to you, or how you see it manifesting in your community. And then we'll bring those photos and share a little bit about them and have a nice dialogue. So that'll be a way to be social and kind of focus on climate change too. So I'll put the link to that in the chat. Thanks, Kat.
For sure. Yeah. And yeah, give us a follow on social media or sign up for our email newsletter. Great ways to see what's going on with the group on a continuing basis. But that's a little bit about us. Before we move on, I guess Becca and Tiffany are our speakers today, depending on how they would like to handle questions. I think what we've done in the past is if you do have a question, you can put it in the chat box and that will be visible for the presenters, and they can either speak to it while they're on the slide that they're on now, or if it's something that's going to come up later in their presentation, they can kind of take it as they go. So if you do have questions, feel free to type those in the chat box. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker. So Becca Ward is the managing director now of CELI, the Clean Energy Leadership Institute, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to developing a new kind of energy leadership. They're creating a national movement to accelerate education, leadership, and community in clean energy. And CELI has trained over 600 emerging leaders across 450 organizations in clean energy, policy, finance, and technology since its inception in 2013. And I, as a disclaimer, was one of those people in the last cohort for Chicago. So I know Becca pretty well. So I'm going to hand it over to you, and I will mute myself now if you want to go ahead and share your screen.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kyle. And I am very happy to be here with all of you today. As Kyle mentioned, I'm the managing director of CELI. I actually moved to Chicago in January of 2020, so I know pretty much nothing about the city. So I would love to connect with all of you to understand a little bit more what's going on. For just a little bit of background on me, before I joined CELI full-time in August of 2019, I worked in policy. I have a policy background. I worked with Senator Jeff Merkley of Oregon, and actually worked quite a bit with 350.org on, keep it in the ground and some of those other policy initiatives. So I feel very comfortable to come back here. So thank you all for that. As Kyle mentioned, CELI is a nonprofit. We really were founded around a frustration of young people feeling like they had no insight, no access, and no ability to impact clean energy and climate action. Really around a conference room table in Washington, D.C. at the Center for American Progress after watching the Waxman-Markey bill fall apart, and wanted ways for folks to get more engaged and to understand the energy sector, understand ways to impact change. And so that pretty quickly morphed into folks cold calling energy folks and executives and activists and advocates to say, can you sit down with 5 of us to tell us about your path and what you're doing? That morphed into our fellowship program, which is probably what CELI is best known for. And I'll get into a little bit more details about that. Now it is this 5-month program with deep dives across deep decarbonization, policy, technology, markets and finance, social adaptation, and leadership development throughout. But really where CELI, we see our role, as a 501c3, we do not advocate for specific policies or initiatives, but we really try to connect all the different facets and silos of the clean energy space through our fellowship, through our educational events, through our community building to try to get better dialogue, better discourse, and a place for folks to be able to kind of hold the tension around some of the issues that we may have similar values and vision, but there's a lot of difference and a lot of nuance in trying to find those opportunities for folks to come together and have those frank conversations in a venue that doesn't have, a lot of weight in it, just as an opportunity to learn and to bond. So as Kyle mentioned, we're growing pretty rapidly. We were founded in 2013 in DC. The first 4 years of our existence were entirely grassroots, no budget, no staff. We hired on our first executive director who moved to the Bay Area to launch our second chapter. And then I was the second full-time employee and moved to Chicago to launch this chapter. I did do the fellowship in 2014 when I was a policy staffer, so had been volunteering pretty extensively with the organization for almost the last 6 years. This year we are launching a chapter in New York as well, and we are having a virtual national fellowship because we might as well make hay with this virtual world. So to get into a little bit more about our approach, I mentioned our fellowship, which I'll dive into, but we really want the ability for folks to zoom out of their day-to-day work where you may be focused on, electric vehicles or divestment or, financing, but to have the opportunity to kind of step back and see different facets of the clean energy space, of advocacy, of environmental justice, energy inequities, and kind of get some sense of that and have, again, that space to connect and talk. So last year, in addition to our fellowship program, we put on over 45 events, anything from negative emission technologies to electric buses and manufacturing and labor, equity and climate change, agriculture, all across the board. We also did what ended up being a virtual conference, Empower, which will be in Chicago this year, hopefully in person at the end of October, so stay tuned for that, which brought about 900 folks over 45 sessions, 100 speakers together, really focusing on climate justice and equitable decarbonization as the theme of the conference last year. So talked about education. Community is really what we want. We don't want folks that are here to build resumes or just to go through another program. We want folks that are around, stick around, become part of the community, because our theory of change really is around getting folks a little bit earlier in their career, equipping them with this adaptive leadership training, which you see listed there, and with a connected cohort of folks across the clean energy space that as they grow in their careers and get to leadership positions, they understand the systems better, they understand who to talk to in every silo, and they have a better understanding of the impacts, especially on an equity and justice lens of the solutions that we're pushing forward, and a better sense of who's actually in the conversation and who may be left out and how there's opportunities to change that. So these are the main pillars of our programming. Today, I'm most excited to talk to you all about our fellowship because we are in active recruiting for our 2021 cycle. And so this is about a 4.5, 5-month program. We take about 30 to 35 fellows through in each cohort. So we'll have about 175 fellows joining CELI this year, which is our biggest number yet. And it was actually a little daunting to me, but I'm excited for it. And we begin this with an orientation around the evolution of the electricity sector and environmental, really, injustices and energy equities to kind of center that as folks go through the fellowship. And then we jump into these 5 modules where we talk about technology, about finance, policy, decarbonization, social adaptation, so that folks get a sense of, again, that kind of zoomed out picture of the clean energy space. Just for a sampling, there were some benefits of turning our fellowship virtual last year. So in our Chicago chapter, we had my former boss, Senator Jeff Merkley, come and speak at our federal policy session. We had the Assistant Secretary, Rita Barnwell of the Office of Nuclear Energy speak, Jigar Shah, if you'll listen to the Energy Gang of Generate Capital, was one of our speakers, the CEO of Arcadia Power. We had folks from the governor's office. We had a former state legislator speak to local policy. We had Damon Drummer, the executive director of New Consensus based in Chicago, speak to our equitable transition, and then a whole slew of folks from across the Chicago kind of energy ecosystem. So we're really hoping to bring folks, again, from all those different vantage points through the fellowship. And then in between each of these modules, we do skill development workshops and adaptive leadership training. So adaptive leadership, just as a really quick summary, we try to differentiate between the technical challenges that we face and the adaptive challenges we face, thinking from a technical challenge of how do we increase the density of storage to how do you actually retrofit buildings when there are, so many different stakeholders. It will require change, it will require loss. Climate change is the ultimate example of an adaptive challenge, right? That requires a ton of different behavioral, organizational, systemic changes. I think there's, also as we increasingly look at and the energy and environmental community, I think 350 gets this, but as more stakeholders in the energy space understand the interaction of climate justice and racial justice, there's a lot of change and a lot of adaptive leadership that is needed. So this is something we see throughout. And so we do these 4 workshops, and the fellowship also culminates in a capstone project. So folks will do either a business pitch, a op-ed. We had about, I think, 13 of our fellows be published in either, Utility Dive, Energy News Network, all these things through CELI. And then we have this closing residency where we end up and call it to action of how people carry this through their careers. I will get into Catherine's question really quickly with our 2021 updates. As I mentioned, we will have five cohorts. National is not quite a chapter, but in Chicago, the Bay Area, a new national program, New York and DC. All of our sessions will be virtual. We really hoped that it would not be, including last year, but with 35 folks crammed into a conference room, that seems like a bad idea for things to happen in person. For our local or city-based chapters, if things open up in August or September, we will have optional outdoor social events for folks to connect and build that community. But we also went through our orientation was March 21st of last year, which, as you might remember, was like, it'll be fine, everything is closed. So we pulled everything on real quickly, but we've had a little bit more time to plan this year. So we've made it so it's a little bit less lecture heavy and more interaction, more ability for folks to really connect, to try to socially engineer some of those connections that you have in person. So they will all be virtual. One of the fun things too about this national program or kind of virtual world is we will have some crossover where you'll work with the folks in DC or the national program and have that opportunity to kind of build that national network. If you are based in Chicago and are interested, you should apply to the Chicago chapter. I also think that'll be a better chance because we've gotten, a lot of national interest for this first one. So definitely apply local. And the idea is that when you come out of CELI, out of the fellowship, you are continuing to work and engage and run into people. We have now gotten into we've gotten into such a wonderful place where it's like people will go into meetings and be like, oh, there's 3 sea lions. Like, this is great. Like you just run into each other and you're actually building that, and kind of that immediate connection is what we're looking for. For the eligibility of the fellowship, it is basically 3 years. The minimum is 3 years of experience in clean energy, climate advocacy adjacent. We're not super strict on that, but in the field. Or 5+ years of professional experience as the kind of entry point. On our website, it says 3 to 7 years, and that's really our kind of minimum experience level of folks. We typically end somewhere in that like 3 to 9 years on average for experience, but definitely have had folks that are a little bit more senior. But what I will say is, how we design the fellowship program is that, there of those 23 sessions, right, of all the different modules, there probably will be one area where someone has like a deeper expertise and don't really need to be in that session. But when you average that out to everyone, you get this really nice peer exchange where you then following up on the session, there's like, oh, like, can you explain like this part? I didn't quite get that, or let's have a follow-up conversation because I think this applies to my work. And so we look for folks that have expertise to give But there's a lot that they need to learn. And again, that ability to zoom out of your kind of day-to-day fire drill and get this bigger sense of the clean energy clean energy economy. So that is, and then, you know, we have an orientation, leadership training, closing residency, and we really want folks that will be here and be engaged. So of those sessions, you need to miss no more than 4. Things happen, life happens. That's why we have that flexibility. But if you know you have something every other Wednesday, it's probably not the perfect program for you. But however, if it is not, I'm kidding, I'm out of sequence on my slides. Here are my key dates here. So early bird application close in about a week. That just means that there is no application fee from February 15th to March 7th. There is a $25 application fee. If that is an issue, please just let us know at that point, but please try to get them in early. We constantly are fundraising for scholarships across the board, and we never want price to be any impediment to being able to participate. Our process is basically an application, an interview for invited candidates, and then fellows will be notified April 9th. Our programs will run May 21st to May 22nd. If this is not quite the experience level you're looking for, one of the other things we have is we launched in October a membership model. So we are trying to give folks access to this community and the educational resources if you're not able to participate or not interested in participating in the fellowship. So we have a range of memberships, including a free community membership. Folks should check out. We do job boards, career panels, lots of webinars, as I mentioned, early access to things. We have a meet and greet with our new ED happening just for members next week. So you should check that out too if not quite ready or the right demographic for the fellowship. And then something that we actually launched just on Monday, which I'm really excited about and just want to tell you all, is our EDIC Summer Internship Program. So we are partnering with Elemental Accelerator, which was founded in Hawaii, but has the biggest presence across the West Coast. They are a clean tech incubator. We are offering this summer internship specifically for BIPOC college students and recent graduates for paid opportunities in the clean tech and climate space. CELI, on our side, we will recruit, match, and pair, and then provide Clean Energy 101 training, mentorship, additional professional development, bring in high-level mentors and speakers for folks to see across the clean energy economy, and Elemental will help steward the companies to make sure that they are actually enacting DE&I practices, are creating an inclusive environment, and are creating a community of practice for folks to be able to share best practices as they look to not be, 95% white in their clean tech companies. So we are really excited to launch that. We are actively looking for companies and interns. So if there are folks in your network that may be interested, please feel free to send them our way. And then lastly, if I talked a lot at you and you want to spend more time talking to alumni, we have another open recruiting event that's Wednesday night at 6:30 Eastern. Sorry, I'm still in my DC brain. Time zones are hard. At 6:30 Central, which you can come in. And then kind of an example of some of the other events that we do. We're looking at GEST Decarbonization in New York for our New York chapter, which is open to everyone, specifically on their Peaker Plant initiative. And then on February 18th, the Black Oak Collective is a professional organization specifically trying to build community for Black professionals in sustainability and energy. They're based out of DC, but it's national. And so we're having a joint event with them as well. That is it for me. I'd love to, I don't know, Kyle, how I'm doing on time, if we need to transition or if folks have additional questions.
I think we're good on time. We have an hour and a half blocked off if people have to, hop off early. This will be available online as well. We'd obviously like everyone to stay on for the full time, but yeah, we plan for plenty of questions, and I can also speak to my experience on CELI for the Chicago cohort last year. Just I remember finding out that I was one of the people accepted to my cohort, and I read the descriptions of the other people that were in my cohort, and I was like, holy crap, this is an impressive group of people. But I quickly got over my imposter syndrome, I guess, because it was very welcoming, and it was really cool to get that sense of community that Becca was talking about, and develop friendships, and keep a WhatsApp message going months and months after the fellowship has ended, where people are sharing articles or events or job postings, things like that you're going to get by just opening up your network and having kind of people that are in your tribe, just welcoming another 34 friends in there. So that was really great for me to experience, and I'd advise anybody else who's interested in taking a step into the clean energy industry, or wants to maybe explore new things or just round out their profile on understanding lots of different topics. I work in energy efficiency, and I still learned a whole bunch on that module. Like Becca was saying, maybe you could sit it out. I was like, I wouldn't sit out that one, because I learned more than I knew. So yeah, it was a really great experience. So I'll kind of turn it over. It seems like most of the questions that were in the chat, I think you got to, but maybe if people have questions, you can unmute and just Becca can speak to those.
Yeah, and I did see one question that I didn't answer about the leadership training for fresh out of school. I would highly recommend checking out the membership, because we do member events around leadership development in this adaptive leadership module.
Anybody else have any that they'd like to raise for Becca? Oh, wow. Just such
Wow.
everything was
I'll
covered.
just take that as a very thorough presentation.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
that is how I will interpret that.
I mean, what does Becca do in her spare time? Is she an Olympian? Yes, she is. You don't want to get into that one? No.
That seemed actually, you know what? I will get into that, because that was my kind of call to clean energy. I thank you, Kyle, for that forced intro. I competed in the Beijing Olympics in women's fencing. And fun fact that so there's 3 types of fencing. There's foil, épée, and saber. I fence saber. Women's saber was the very, very first event of the Beijing Olympics, just happened to be so. So we were there 2 weeks in advance to acclimate. And they would take us on tours and talk about the kind of multi-generational farm displacement to build the kind of Olympic infrastructure. I had this like very, very, very visceral moment of I was in the Olympic Village, like it was like 4 or 5 days before things started, and there was like booming. I was like, what is going on? And they would actually seed clouds to create rain to bring down pollution. And it was so dirty. I had like this white issued zip up that I got caught in the rain, and it was like stained. And I was like, this is not, this seems like not the best thing that we could be doing. And like, not letting folks drive, shutting down factories just to like create, an atmosphere that seemed more welcoming for international tourists and athletes. And I left that and I went to college orientation, and I studied public policy and energy technology. And here I am a number of years later that I will not disclose with all of you. So I will take that as the pivot entry point, Kyle. Thank you.
There you go. All right. Well, I guess then if we don't have any more questions, then we can kind of pivot on to our next speaker here. So let me pull up here.
And I'll just say, I'm going to drop my my email address into the chat. If anyone has any additional questions or would like to follow up, please join us next Wednesday. Be able to talk to different alumni across the board, but would be happy to chat as well. Also, again, I moved to Chicago 2 months before the world shut down. So, you know, if you just want to chat, I'm also here for that. I built in my 36 friends, as Kyle said, through CELI, but you know, there's more to Chicago I'd love to see. So hit me up.
She's a great happy hour hang.
I facilitate a lot of happy hours. Thanks, Kyle.
Yeah,
Thank you
no
all.
worries. All right. So at this point, we're going to pivot to our next speaker, and pleased to introduce Tiffany Shepard of GEST Carts Chicago, which is an acronym for Green, Easy, Safe Transport. I don't want to step on too much of your presentation here, Tiffany, so I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen here, and let me know whenever you need to move to the next one. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes, perfect. Thank you, Kyle, for the intro. So good morning, everyone. My name is Tiffany Shepard. I am one of the co-founders of GEST Carts Chicago. As Kyle mentioned, it stands for Green, Easy, Safe Transport. And this visual right here is actually a real picture taken of our current carts. And we can kind of get into more ways that the carts can be customized and all types of things as I get into my presentation. But thank you for having me this morning. Next slide, Kyle. Thanks. So, currently we've launched in the West Loop area, and just kind of a little intro to GEST. So GEST basically is, if you can, as you saw on the cart, it is a free transportation option for people either in the downtown area. And let's say, for instance, I'm sure, as much as the city, is transitioning through the different tiers and different phases, we are seeing people kind of still socializing or coming back outside. And so especially in the West Loop area. And so you can hop in and hop off. Basically, imagine you're going from the parking garage to that very cold walk to the front door of the restaurant or anything like that. So we've launched in the West Loop area, and we kind of just do a loop in that area and just kind of getting restaurants associated with us so they can recommend us to their patrons. And again, we see, I'm getting ahead of my presentation, but we offer that. And then the other thing that actually speaks kind of a little bit more true to us is that we also offer, again, now that the city is opening back up, we have more of an opportunity to do this, but we really, our passion point is helping out in local communities. So there's a lot of neighborhoods in Chicago that, have food insecurity, just helping elderly people to get to doctor's appointments. Even we're hoping to maybe potentially partner with some of the vaccine facilities and assisting people in getting to the vaccines. And we've met with the state, and they're very excited about us just because there's just a general goal and priority within the state and the city to also just kind of get more diversity in the electric transport space. And so whether that's just getting people just kind of more acclimated to that world. Our cart is not something that most people would be able to just go out and purchase, but you can certainly ride along with us. And so whether that's just kind of becomes more of kind of a soft entree into maybe getting people to go out and purchase, a Prius or something like that. We're just kind of happy to be there and be that kind of liaison into that world for a lot of people that just may not have as much experience in the electric transport space. As on the slide, we are zero emissions, multiple passenger vehicle. And we're excited as a transport option in Chicago. Sorry, next slide. So the company, the corporate GEST is Cincinnati founded by a husband and wife, so couple. She was kind of the creator behind it, so woman owned. And then again, as I mentioned, the Chicago branch is Black and woman owned. So we're very excited. These are my partners. So that's myself, my partner, and I'm in the back row of the cart. My partner, Marissa, is in the second row. And my brother, if you can't tell by the last name, is in the front row. And so we all, as you can imagine, as a startup, there's 3 of us. And so we all wear varying hats. But we, again, as our fleet is expanding, we also look to expand our team. And again, very excited about that. So my brother is the current driver right now. The city does require us to have a chauffeur license. and register our company as a livery company. And so I think they're still kind of trying to figure out where to place us, especially because we're free. But they don't want to treat us like Uber because, I mean, we are not Uber. We provide the vehicles. Our drivers are employees, unlike Uber. So again, the city loves that. Again, we are electric, and again, we're free. So a little different. So it's like they're kind of like, are you Uber? Are you pedicab? We don't quite know where to put you guys, but in the meantime, we're considered a livery service, and all our drivers have to pass the chauffeur exam for safety. Next slide, Kyle. So the passenger experience, as I mentioned, there are predetermined spots. So imagine kind of a smaller version of a hop-on, hop-off bus. We also have a phone number that people can text if they need a ride. We're available for private event rentals, whatever those come back and become a thing again. We're excited to help. And then the last thing is we do have an app that is fully functional currently in Cincinnati. The thing about Chicago, if anyone's been to Cincinnati, you know that Chicago is a much larger animal. And so we don't want to launch the app in Chicago yet until we feel like our fleet, one, with the city opening back up and our fleet availability. The last thing you want when you're a business is for people to be ready and excited and they can't, get a cart anywhere. And so we're waiting to launch the app in Chicago until we currently have 4 carts in our fleet right now, but we're waiting again until they're not all on the street because the volume of people outside just doesn't make sense right now. So once kind of the city opens back up, then we will launch the app. Again, once passengers are on board, free, fun ride right now. I actually should have put a picture. The cart is actually still decorated in holiday decorations. So if you can imagine a lot of those bars you may see downtown with like lights and tinsel and garland. And so, yes, we are that person that, you see some people's homes that still have Christmas trees up. Our cart is still decorated as a Christmas tree right now. And so we're actually just waiting for it to get a little cooler so we can take that decor off. But I should have put a picture. I think that it's on our Instagram page though. They are all weather vehicles. There is heat inside, and it is green. It's not, there is a solar version of our cart that we're looking to launch within the next year or two. So just, forgive us for that. We are new to the green space, but we are quickly learning and catching up. Next slide. So cart logistics, it is a Polaris E6. Again, it seats 6 passengers. And we do have the COVID safety measures where we have a kind of a partition between the driver and the passengers. So typically, we'll say 2 years ago, pre-COVID, or if at whatever the new normal looks like, we could actually take 5 people around, and that would include someone sitting next to the driver. Right now, we just pick up 4 people, and it could be a full group. Again, a lot of times we're taking people from their car to the restaurant. So if they're already kind of their own bubble, we're happy to take a group of 4 because you guys rode in the car together already, and you guys are planning on sitting at a table together. So you're likely from the same household. But if it's strangers, we'll just kind of do one in the back and one in the middle in different seats. And I think I talked most of this, already. I guess I got ahead of myself, but next slide, please. So our drivers, like I said, not independent contractors. The city loves that. They all have to be certified as chauffeurs, pass a background check, which our insurance company also appreciates. I actually need to update that because our insurance company has actually increased the age to 22. They get paid a full livable wage. So technically, because they get to keep their tips, I think there's some nuances where we could just pay them as like how waitresses get a very low amount, but then they can keep their tip. We actually want to pay them a minimum wage, a livable wage aside from their tips. So they get that, and then they get 100% of their tips. And so there are partnership opportunities. Obviously, we have to keep the lights on. So while right now the carts are wrapped in a combination of our advertising and very gaudy holiday decorations, our bread and butter, that what allows us to operate for free is companies can literally wrap the outside of the cart in their advertising, right? So imagine our Cincinnati partners have partnered with banks and beer companies and medical companies and whoever. And it kind of runs the gamut because the sky is the limit on how you partner, right? So we've spoken to some banks who want to wrap the outside, but don't care what city we're in, because for them, all it is a mobile billboard. So for us, we say, perfect. So if you don't care what city we're in, then we'll take our cart to Bronzeville and by day offer, free transportation to, Mariano's for elderly citizens. And then at night, we'll take it to West Loop and offer social, transportation to people who are out bar hopping. We do have other companies that say, beer companies that say, well, we'd love for you to be in Wrigley or we'd love for you to be near Soldier Field. And so, sometimes they'll dictate and other times they won't. And we're totally okay with that. We love the ones who don't dictate because again, we can help with more community partnerships, right? We can do the grocery store runs and kind of bounce from neighborhoods that need us. And so again, like I said, that's our passion point. But again, we do also have to keep the lights on. So I guess in a perfect world, it would be, working on some grants and being able to not only, let's say, wrap the outside with a community organization, but to also then serve that same neighborhood, instead of kind of doing the pivot where large corporation advertises, it says, but we don't care where you go. And we say, perfect, we'll go to Pullman, or perfect, we'll go to Bronzeville, or, things like that. So, yeah, that's what we're looking, that's what we are, again, once the city opens back up, excited to ramp up a little bit more and not just have the kind of just blank white cards out there or the cards with our ads on them. Excited to kind of partner with community organizations. And what we do tell the corporations who are interested in partnering is the inside of the cart, if you imagine the roof on the inside, so if you're inside and you're looking up, that's also that can be wrapped as well. So we're actually trying to save that inside space to either local small businesses, woman-owned businesses, Black-owned businesses, or again, community organizations. Every large corporation, we hope at least, has some sort of partnership or affiliation with, again, I'll use the bank as example. They have small businesses they support. What you can put, let's say, Fifth Third on the outside, but why not on the inside advertise a really cool small business that you guys work with, or a really cool community organization that you're the bank for? So we always encourage that whenever we're talking to companies. Next slide. And one of the things that, again, we're really proud of is the food giveaways. So during the holidays and just kind of, this particular event, I believe, was November. And so we're donating out in the communities, not just donating our time, donating food and resources, and partnering with local organizations to just even give food back to those in need. And so we were really excited about this. And this, again, if anyone here knows the startup world, again, there's 3 of us, but we all have siblings. So we're like, everyone get in the van, the whole family's going to volunteer, let's go. You guys are all now unofficial employees of GEST Carts. So we all go out and just volunteer as much as we can. So again, like I said, that's a passion area for us. And so it kind of just comes natural. Next slide. And just, this is literally just an estimate, right? Like our growth, again, depends on the revenue we're bringing in. And so we're in the West Loop now. We're really looking forward to some partnerships in Bronzeville, and then just, overall citywide. And so, like I said, we have 4 carts as we speak. We plan to continue to grow. We are currently headquartered in a commercial residential environment in Bronzeville. But what we look forward, and we're storing our carts in Bronzeville, but what we look forward to doing is, again, as we expand, the carts are classified as a low speed vehicle, so only 25 miles an hour. So that's why we like to stay within a neighborhood. We never want to take someone from the north side to the south side, because that could probably take 2 hours. And we're also, again, because we're low speed, we can't get on the expressway, we can't get on Lakeshore Drive. So, but surprisingly enough, although you may not think this by the way people drive, most streets in Chicago, the speed limit is 30. And so we're totally fine driving on those streets, but we try to keep it to kind of a 2-mile radius neighborhood. And so again, as we expand, we look forward to finding garages throughout the city. So again, we're not always driving our carts from Bronzeville to the West Loop or from Bronzeville to Wrigley. We can start to, we've spoken to a few hotels that all have the electric charging stations inside of them. And they're excited to partner. Again, everyone's excited once the world opens, but we're looking at kind of leveraging a partnership where we say, hey, can we just park a few in your garage because we need to be in this neighborhood? And in exchange, we'll shuttle your guests back and forth whenever they start having guests again. So guests will, be our guests. That's kind of our slogan. And so that as we expand, we'll also expand our locations in our garages is what I meant to say. And I should say this map at the top. Again, Cincinnati was our first location. Chicago is second. Detroit actually is opening in March. And I believe Atlanta and Charlotte, North Carolina just signed on. So, and next, and just quick fun facts. Again, a lot of this is if I were pitching to a company. I think I covered most of this. And then that's it. And I just kind of encourage everyone to go through my brother for the most part. He was actually supposed to present today, but he decided to take a vacation. You're like, the nerve of him. There are no vacations. So here I am presenting on my birthday weekend. So, but again, that's the life of a startup. We're super passionate about it. We're excited. We're if you see us around, please hop in, hop off, take a picture, follow us on Instagram. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. And, again, I'm from the Oak Park. My family's from Oak Park. I lived in Cincinnati for a little bit. That's how I became acquainted with the company. Excited to be back in Chicago. I'm living in the South Loop. But also, again, I was telling Kyle this, very new to the energy space, very new to just electric transport, very kind of new to all the areas that this brings, excited. But if there's other organizations you feel like we should be a part of, Becca, I'm excited to connect with you, things we should just be learning or being a member of, please just kind of tap us in, connect us, because again, we understand it's a learning curve and we're excited to kind of learn and contribute to that space.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tiffany, and also happy birthday.
Thank you. I see some questions. Let's see.
Sorry, I was just changing the view,
no problem. Where did the chat go?
Okay. How fussy was Cincinnati about this new venture?
So from my understanding, Cincinnati actually welcomed it with open arms. Again, and I don't know, Catherine, if you're familiar with Cincinnati, but the downtown area is pretty small. So it's easily, so it's easily walkable. And so it's actually I'm actually kind of jealous of Cincinnati because Cincinnati has the benefit of, there's just not a huge taxi scene and other things like that. And so the carts are perfect for Cincinnati. And downtown, I would say maybe, I used to live downtown. I think I walked everywhere. So it's maybe 3 miles, in either direction. And so it's perfect. And you can stand on the corner and hail a cart in Cincinnati, which I'm so jealous of because the city of Chicago was very clear about what they will not allow. And they warned us that no one can hail us, which is why we have to have the text for pickup, the predetermined routes, the app. They literally were if we allow people to hail you guys, the taxi cabs will boycott and we will have the city will erupt. And so they were very clear about the fact that we cannot hail. And so we are jealous of Cincinnati in that regard. Oh, let's see, sorry. So right now we are privately funded so I should have said by day I'm an attorney. So basically I am funding. So we are privately funded just through the kind of the funds of the three of us. I don't know. I actually had not considered donations. I guess I should say yes, but we're not. To be transparent, we're not a 501c3. So I think there's thousands of other organizations to donate to. But yeah, so a bulk of 100% of our overhead will be eventually covered by advertisers. We just have not landed our first advertiser yet. So again, so everything we're doing right now is just coming from our personal funding. Let's see. Oh, I'm not sure, Becca, about the EV tax credit, but again, this is a newer space for us. So we're looking into all of these things like simultaneously, but I will certainly pass it on to my co-founder, who that is one of her 12 hats. And so I will make sure she's looking into that. So, oh yeah, I think I put up the email at the end of the slide. Our website is, I can type it in, is guestcarts.com. Yeah, check us out. And if you see us in the West Loop, don't hail us, but please hop on, hop off. And yeah, we're excited to just put the rest of our fleet on the street and continue to expand as it makes sense. And again, just to all of you guys, please, oh, did I send it? Oh, sorry. Again, to all of you guys, if there's other organizations or if it's just a matter of, oh, there we go, okay. If it's just a matter of me just joining a newsletter, please just send those suggestions and let me know, because again, we're very new to this space and so excited to just kind of jump in and get to know like-minded people.
For sure. All right.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Tiffany. Thank you, Becca, as well. Both really interesting presentations, and I think we had a lot of good questions here. So as I mentioned, this is going to be located on our YouTube page afterwards if you did miss anything. So you can, pause and get emails, links, all of that stuff. But if you are also interested in just learning more about it, reach out to us. On our website for 350 Chicago, there's a contact us feature and we'll send you through everything that you need. So yeah, I think that wraps, and thanks everybody for joining us on this really balmy Saturday in Chicago, and hope you all have some fun stuff to do this Super Bowl weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks everybody. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.